Hey guys, my name is Nathaniel Tapia, back at it again at the interview room. I'm here with my co host
Jessica Mazariegos.
and our special guest.
Milca Ramirez.
Oh, Spanish accent. Okay, that's nice. Okay. Just kidding. This is season 2, episode 5, 6. I lost count. Whichever. Whatever. But I'm here with our special guest, Milca Ramirez. And the question that we always say in this show is, how was your day/week?
It's been great. I'm glad to be back home to enjoy my last week before I go back to school. But yeah, I mean, it's good. The weather is kind of okay. It's a little bit too hot for me right now, but it's fine.
That's South Georgia for you.
Heck yeah.
That's South Georgia right here. You went to Switzerland, right?
Yes, the weather there was a lot better than here. I think also because it's
Yeah, it must be nice.
Nice. You went there for your internship, was it? Or
yes, so,
Was
yes.
it was
So-
it for school or?
No, so I interned with a company in Atlanta, and I did half of it in Atlanta for 4 weeks, and then 4 weeks in Switzerland in their office in Switzerland. So yeah,
Dang.
it's fun.
I bet it is.
That. Dang. Man, and if you don't mind, what's like the company, like what do they do? Like what's the purpose of the company?
Okay, so the company it's an accounting firm, so they specialize in offering tax services, audit services, which is basically assurance, making sure that a company is filing all of their statements correctly and not committing fraud, and advisory, which is offering consulting services to different companies. Yes.
I blanked out after you said company. I blanked out after you said company.
Accounting is hard. You gotta be good at math.
Very,
Sure.
very good.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
That I feel like it's not very complicated math, but it's more the concepts and understanding how to apply them. That's the hard part.
Gotcha. I suck.
I
at
still,
math.
yeah. I mean, I was good at math back then when I was younger. I was pretty good at math, but then I kind of like let go after our senior year, I believe. I gave up. I was like, I cannot do this. But anyways, to start off the episode/show, we'll do some questions. I'll probably do 5. Jessica will do 5, and if you want, we'll be like, well, let's flip the tables, and you can ask us a couple questions. So my first question is, okay, you might have to help me out because I forgot. Was what was the topic about again? Sorry.
So we're going to talk about being Christian in college and also just trusting God and how, especially while you're in college.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So my first question, out at the top of my head, because that's how I am, because I'm not Chat GPT over here. Sorry, I always have to call you.
I didn't use it this time. I didn't use it. Or last time. When we
Sure.
did it. I promise. I promise.
You positive?
I'm positive.
You positive?
Positive.
Positively? Gotcha. All right. So my first question is, how hard is it for you as a Christian who is in college, deal with the life struggles around you? Like just anything, the things of the world. There you go.
Wait, I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Great.
Sorry.
I had to go into more philosophical terms. I'm just kidding. No, us as Christians, we go through temptations every day in our lives. So let's say, for instance, you're a college student. So let's say, for instance, your friends invite you to like a party or anything like that, and there's like drinks there, or they're smoking or something like that. As a Christian, how do you deal with like something like that? I'm not saying that you probably do that or you go out to parties. It's just an example. It's an example. Just so the things of the world, the things that might easily tempt you or something like that.
Well, I think for me, it's always been very important to know my identity, and my identity, I find it in God. And I think for me, it's always been important for my friends around me to know as well, like that I am a Christian. And so, yes, I know that many times, especially in college, it's really easy to go out and drink, to go out and be in parties. But I think if you understand, like, for example, me, like, I understand I am a child of God, and I sometimes, yes, it might seem interesting, like, oh, like you get invited and you're like, okay, you feel like you're missing out, but at the same time, it's like you're not missing out on much because it's being in those situations is not, ideal, and it's not, you're not going to go and like missing out on much, right? And I think for me, it's always been really important for my friends to know, that I am Christian, and because they know that a lot of times they like know not to ask me like, oh, do you want to come? Do you want to do this?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's first of all understanding, that your identity in God, making sure that your friends kind of know that, that you're Christian, and then also try not to put yourself in those situations. Like if you know that you're not to put yourself in a place where you're going to be around people that are smoking, around people that are drinking. Try to avoid that, because there have been times where my friends have invited me, and then and they're like, oh, like you don't have to drink, but if I know that I'm not going to feel comfortable or like not even want to put myself in that situation, you're like, no, even if you know that you're not going to go and like participate and stuff like that. If
Peer
that makes
pressure.
sense.
There you go. Peer pressure. If just a shorter definition, peer pressure.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm chewing gum. Sorry. My next question is gonna correlate to what you were saying about friends and
Yeah.
everything like that. Do your friends know that you're a Christian? Just so I can move on to the next question.
Yes, they do.
Okay. So, since they know that you're a Christian, how hard was it for you to open up to them? Like that, to say, hey guys, there's going to be some boundaries, all that. Like, I know, I'm, like I said, I don't know your friends. I was just some random examples that I threw at you. There's going to be some boundaries, obviously, as a life as a Christian, it's going to be hard for me as the things of the world. So how hard was it for you to open up? Because I know there are some people in the world, specifically me. It was hard for me when I was in high school that I was surrounded with a lot of friends, and they did, like, I'm not trying to judge, but I will. I'm sorry, guys. But they would go out around saying stuff, maybe, like some like bad language. There we go. Bad language, or probably going out to parties. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't know. But they would probably go out to parties, drink or something like that, smoke maybe. And like it was hard for me to like open up to them. Well, they knew I was a Christian, but like I didn't like set any like boundaries or anything like that. So I kind of just went with it. Like I obviously I didn't like go into temptation or like sin, like go drink or anything like that. Like, but so back to the question. Sorry, how hard was it for you to like set boundaries or like to open up to them? Because most people now they're like pretty scared to say, hey, like I'm a Christian, boundaries.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever been afraid to tell people that I'm Christian. I'm like, if you want to be around me, I'm Christian. If you want to be around me, be around me. If you don't, it's fine. So I don't think I've ever been afraid to like set my boundaries. I think anybody that I've always been around, I feel like just in the way I act, and also they always know, like I'm always like, oh, I went to church, I did this, So I feel like they already know that I'm Christian. It's not like, oh, like I open up and I'm like, hey guys, like I need to tell y'all this. I feel like they just always like, implied it. And then from then on, I think they've always like they grasp it. And then also sometimes whenever they're participating in stuff, they don't see me doing the same thing or like talking the same way that they do. And then there's sometimes, they might be in a conversation and I just kind of like zone out and I'm just like, hey, like I'm gonna go do something. And just kind of, I feel like it's gotten to a point too where I don't know, I feel like they really respect me. And I really like that. Sometimes like they won't say certain things around me, or if like they're gonna say something and they're like, Milka, you might not want to hear this. They'll let me know. So I really appreciate that, and I think it's sometimes you kind of just have to get over, oh, what might people say? Like I said, if people around you care so much that you're Christian and don't want to be, then those aren't really good friends. You got to surround yourself with people that will respect you, just as you should respect them, especially if they have like other religion, like a different religion or different preferences as well.
I mean, yeah, just to respect other
Yeah,
people's
yeah, yeah.
religions and all
Yeah.
that, their beliefs,
Yeah.
as I might say. But shout out to Milka's friends, man. Shout out to her friends, because I know now in our generation, today's world, as I would say, because apparently somebody gets offended when I say our generation or something like that. just kidding. But they're now in today's world, you can't do that, or like people our age, you can't do that because they easily get offended, or like they'll just
quick to judge. If depending on whatever religion you are, they are really quick to judge nowadays and how they would back, in the past, pues y todo. So, yeah.
What she said, yes, what she said. But now in today's, I had to leave my friend group. Like as much as it was hard,
Yeah.
but I had to leave it. I know I still see them like every once in a while, but like individually. Like I saw one of them at like college. I was like, hey, how's it going, and all that. But like I had to because I knew it was like putting me somewhere where I didn't want to be. And
Yeah.
like I immediately, not to be mean, but I immediately cut them off because I knew if I continued on with them, it would have probably took me to a darker path. As much as maybe they might say that they didn't, or it may not, but like for some reason, I felt that. I felt that.
Yeah. I think I definitely understand what you mean. I feel like it's also, I feel like it can be easy when you're around people and you're like, oh, like if they're doing something like that, you can get easily, I guess, get peer pressured. But I think again that goes back to how much can you handle. Like if you know like being around people is maybe changing the way you're acting or changing the way you're thinking, like you might be like, okay, I gotta get away from them. And I think it can be hard because sometimes you're really close to people and you're like, oh, like they didn't like do anything bad. They don't do anything bad to you directly, but
Yeah.
sometimes you might start feeling like, oh, like I'm getting influenced. But the best thing is to just leave. And
Yeah, because I've been with them for like many, many years, give or take like 10 years. And like because back then I was blinded. I was literally blinded with the things of the world. And now that I've started coming closer to God, like my eyes were open now. My eyes were open. And so I realized what was going on and all that. And I was like, I know it's not something that I want to do, but it's needed. Like it's something that I need to do. And like you were saying, like I was there with them for like 10 years and all that. And I would stand, but like I was saying, I had opened my eyes as soon as I got closer to God, and I realized like this isn't taking me nowhere. Like if I keep on, because to be honest, and I'm gonna open up, I've never done this, that I would be with them. We'd go play soccer sometimes, or they hang out with some of my ex-friends back then that I had to cut off, or they cut me off and all that. And it's just I didn't feel right, and yeah, it was just really not a good thing for me. But I mean, I do miss them. I do miss like all the laughs we had together. But yeah, I mean, it was a good thing. It was a good thing. But like I said, I'm still sad and all that.
yeah, no, that makes sense. And I feel like nowadays, especially, it's just hard to, let's say, like it's not a good idea to be like, okay, I'm gonna isolate from everybody and just hang around Christian people. Especially
Yeah.
I feel like once you get older, it's really hard to just stick with a group of friends that are Christian. Like for example, me in college, like a lot of people that I mainly study with, that are in my major program, they're not Christians. So it's not like, oh, I'm not just going to talk to anybody that's like within my major, within my college, and I'm just going to go and talk to people outside. You
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of even and with work too. Sometimes like within work, you have to communicate with people that are not Christian. But again, I think it's being able to set those boundaries and not being afraid of what people will say. I think is really helpful. And then if that doesn't work, then going and
Yeah.
putting yourself a little bit away from them. So.
Okay, not to get emotional, sorry. Next question is trusting God, or the topic, trusting God. Around what year or age would you say, okay, I'm going to take the step, sorry.
You're good.
Sorry. I'm going to take the step. It's a big step, and I'm going to trust in God now. Like, I'm putting everything on Him. Like, all my life's worries, anxiety. Like I said, I'm just throwing stuff out. I really don't know anything. Anxiety, depression, stress, anything. And now I'm putting my trust in God. Like, around what age would you say? Or year?
Okay. I feel like I'm still learning that.
Yeah.
It's not, I feel like, I grew up in a Christian home. And so for a big part of my life, especially, you're like a teenager, you're not really worried about much because you have your parents right there and everything. I think for me, I feel like when I started to learn that, okay, I really need to depend on God is when I went to college. because that was the first time I actually went away from all my family. I mean, I've never been far from anybody. And also, like, I never saw myself going away that far. But I feel like I always had, like, dreams and goals that I was like, oh, like, I want to be able to do this. And I knew that if I wanted to do that, I had to leave. And I think that was also really scary for me because, again, I've never been away from home, never been away from my family. And so I remember, going, and I think for me, especially making the decision of where to go to college was really, really hard because I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I don't know what if I make the wrong decision, right? I feel like especially because for me, it was like, it's really a really important part of my future. And I was like, if I make the wrong decision, then what's that going to do? And I think for me, I remember whenever I was deciding, I prayed a lot. I really stressed out a lot about it. And then it got to one point where I was like, God, like, I'm just going to go here. If that works out, it works out. If not, I feel like you're going to somehow make it work, right? I went to college, realized that I feel like after 4 years, I realized that it's the perfect place, like where I belonged. And I feel like God has made everything fall into its place. And yes, it's still, even to now, I mean, it's still been a struggle because, I mean, being in college, not knowing what to major in, not knowing what to do, all of that was really trusting God. Trusting, like, okay, I'm making the right decision. Even now to, like, figuring out where I'm going to work after college. I'm still trying to, asking God for that and trying to trust that wherever it is that he, allows me to go to,
Yeah.
that it's, like, the right place. And so I think for me, it was mainly, going to college. And
that college would be.
I go to the University of Georgia.
There we go. Go Dogs.
Yes. Go Dogs.
Just what I wanted to say. I was just waiting for you to say the name so I could say Go Dogs. And I guess 2 more Saturdays, game day. Every Saturday, 4, 12, 7. Another national championship. There we go.
Okay,
Anyways,
let's hope
I'm going
so.
to pass it on to my co-host. I think I'm getting a little carried away. All right. Jessica Masariegos, take it away.
Yes, sir. Well, speaking of school, una pregunta that I wanted to ask you was like, how do you balance your academics with your spiritual growth? So, like, how would you balance that?
I would say, okay, that is actually an area where I've struggled a lot, especially throughout college. I feel like my freshman year and sophomore year were pretty good because I wasn't really that busy. I was involved on campus ministry. I was doing all of this stuff. I was going to church and all of that. But once I actually started getting into my major classes, I realized that it was kind of getting really difficult because school was very stressful. But it got to one point where I was like, I can't let my relationship with God be getting messed up because I'm too busy with school, God is supposed to be number one. And I think from then on, like, I was like, okay, I actually have to, like, do something. And I think putting your priorities for, like, literally prioritizing what's important to you, I think that's the most important thing. And to me, God has always been number one. And it is hard, to, like, be consistent. But one of the ways that I have, tried to do that is, like, every morning, I try to set a time for God, whether that's, like, in the morning. If I'm really busy in the morning, I know I'm going to have, like, really early class and stuff. Maybe I'll leave it at night. Or if I know that I'm busy at nights, do it in the morning. That. And then also, I think for me, it's always been important to also stay connected. Whether I go, I got involved with a church in Athens, which I think is sometimes whenever you leave, especially if you, like, actually move somewhere else, I feel like sometimes it can be easy to just not go to church anymore. But I think that's, like, the most important thing, to make sure that you still find a way to get connected with, the believers. And so I, found a church to go to. I've made a lot of friends that I've been able to stay connected with. And I think that has also just helped me because I have people that are also pouring into me while I'm in college. So I think that, and then finding time outside of church as well. And I think, again, it's knowing when am I busy, when am I not busy, when do I have time for God, even if it's, I feel like I've always, and I, even until now, sometimes there's maybe days where I'm like, oh, like, if I go a day without, like, reading my Bible, and then I'm like, oh, but, like, I had an hour to spare and I could have done that then, And I think it's not an easy thing. You actually have to put in a lot of effort. And even till now, I still fail. There are times where I don't read my Bible, or maybe like one time I come from school and I'm like really tired and I pray without I go to sleep without praying. But I think every day is like a reminder that it shouldn't be like that. You have to try
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I bet it's
But
hard.
it's hard. I think especially when I was like in high school, it was super easy to, I feel like, have a really good relationship with God because I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time to read my Bible and everything. But in college, I feel like it's like so much more difficult because it's so much more busy.
More classes,
Yeah, more
jobs,
classes. And I think
todo.
not even like I feel like you're not in a class that much of a time, but it's studying outside of class, and then it's a whole crazy thing.
Late night studying y todo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, still speaking about that, was there any Bible verses or Bible passages that helped you like throughout college or throughout your university?
Let's see. Actually, I think going back to whenever I started getting really busy with a lot of school, and then I'm the type of person that I've always, I think like my weakness is I'm a perfectionist, and I want things to be a certain way. I also like to have like a plan for my future, right? I am like, okay, I'm gonna do this, this.
A planner.
Yes, literally. And then, or whenever it goes with like grades, I'm not trying to brag, but I've always been like an overachiever. I just want to do the best I can in everything. And I think it got to a point where in school I was like stressed out. I would like study so much and I'd want to, do my best that I could. After every exam, I'd just be stressed out. Like, I'm like, I don't know what I made, because usually for my accounting exams, it would take days, like almost a week to get my grades back. So I would stress out. And then one time I would always write Bible verses in the morning, like always write Bible verses in the morning. And one thing that I remember one time when two of my friends came over to my apartment, and I remember I was like stressed, and one of my friends was like, oh, like the next day, I think it was the next day, one of my friends was like, oh, like he was noticed that like I was kind of stressed out, and he was like, oh, like I noticed that you wrote this verse on like your little, I had like a little board that I like wrote my verses on, and he was like, I think that you should remember that, not to like stress out. And it's Matthew 6, I think it's Matthew 6, chapter Matthew 6, and it starts I think on verse 25 and on 25 to 31, but it's talking about not worry about tomorrow, and I think where it talks about God, if God takes care of the lilies, he takes care of everything else. Why are you worried about tomorrow? Why are you worried about your future? And I think even until now, that's a verse that I always try to remember, especially when I'm stressed, when I'm worried, because I know that God has control of everything. And, if he cares so much about birds, about flowers, he's going to care so much more about me, right, and take care about me and give me everything that I need. So I think that has really helped me throughout school and trying to manage my stress, even though I'm still not perfect and I kind of stress out a lot still, but every time that I do, I always try to remember, like, okay, you can't stress out. You have to trust in God. But that's why I say I think it's a process, I think, like, trusting God sometimes, like, it's difficult. So,
Yeah.
But that is a verse that I always try to remember.
So it was Matthew.
Matthew 6. From verse 25 and on.
Okay. Yeah. It's really good. I've been asking, I think, pretty much everybody about what their favorite verse, and I've gotten so many different responses, and it's good, obviously, because, but yeah, like, if you, like, have you been questioned, or has there been a challenge with being a Christian in school? Like, have you had any challenges?
A challenge?
Or if people even ever question you about about being Christian or anything, or like.
I don't think people have ever questioned me about it. I have had times where like friends maybe ask about it, and then I've been able to tell them about my beliefs and like everything that I think. But I don't think anybody has like ever questioned me or like been like, oh, like I don't agree with you or something like that. Yeah, but I have had, friends ask me about it, or they're like, oh, like I know you're Christian, like could you, tell me about this, or oh, I had this time one time this thing happened to me, like, what do you think about that? So.
Yeah. And have you ever questioned, about being a Christian, or no?
Oh, about like being a Christian myself?
Have you?
I don't think I have. I feel like it can be if you're going through like a difficult situation. I mean, I've had really hard, like difficult situations in my life, and there have been times where I've been like, oh, like God, like why are you doing this? But I don't think I've ever gotten to a point where I'm like, is God like real? Because I feel like throughout my life, I have seen him in various different situations. I feel like ever since I was like a little girl, like I always knew. And then up until now, like I feel like there have been a lot of things that have happened in my life where I've known that, ever since a young age, that God is real. And I think that's why I've never really questioned that, oh, does God exist? But there have been instances in my life where I've questioned, like, why is this happening to me? Like I feel like sometimes where you're like, oh, like I feel like I'm doing everything right. Why is this happening to me? Yeah. But then I recently I think I read or heard this on a podcast, but when you do go through struggles and stuff happens to you and you're like, why is it happening to me? The story of Job, Job, and like whenever he was getting sick and all of that, and he started asking God, like, why is this happening to me, And then there's, oh my goodness, I can't remember the chapters, but there are a few chapters where God literally starts describing to Job everything that he does, like all, he like is a creator of the universe, creator of all of this stuff, and he's like, who are you to question me that I'm the creator of all of this? So I think that to me has helped made me put in a perspective whenever I am going through struggles, or whenever anybody is going through struggles, is that we are nobody to question God of why things are happening to us, because there is a reason, everything that happens, there is a reason for why he's allowing it to happen. And I think that has been something that I have learned, like, and always keep in mind whenever there are struggles. But yeah, I think other than like doubting that if God exists, that I don't think that I have ever thought about that. But.
Well, that's good then. That's good. Yeah. Well, my last question for you is, what are your future goals that you have for school, for work, or just as an adult?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so right now, I was talking to y'all, I'm going back for a 5th year to finish my master in accountancy, and then I'm going to, hopefully, while I'm doing my master's, study and start taking all the parts of the CPA exam so I can get my license. And then after that, right now, I'm actually trying to decide of what my future is going to look like. So I think that's another thing that I am going to have to, start praying about also, because I feel like, to me, like I said, I've always dreamed of like, oh, like I want to graduate, I want to do this, and I want to go and, have a professional career. But another thing for my life too is that I've always wanted to serve God, and I feel like I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is it? How can I use my career, and how can I use my career to serve God, and then also at the same time like serve God while I am,
making that bank.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard because I feel like right now I've gotten to a point where I feel like I can go ahead and make a decision of what, because for example, the company that I worked for this summer, I could work for them next summer, like after I graduate, for full time. But I'm trying to decide, if that's the right thing that I should be doing, or if it's something else that I need to be doing. So I don't know. It's hard. I feel like adulting is so hard. I thought that going to college, deciding what you're gonna major in, and then after that, like you got it. Now I feel like it's like where I'm trying to make decisions that are more difficult. So yeah, but trusting God, and then first of all, making sure and asking Him for guidance. I think that's always been something that has been very important to me, and putting God in everything that I am trying to decide on, because if we're doing His will, then everything should be good, right?
Alrighty, that's gonna be the last question that Jessica Mazariegos asked. So this is the interview room. I am the host, Nathaniel Tapia,
I'm your co-host, Jessica Mazariegos.
and with our special guest,
Milca Ramirez.
go follow us on Instagram, hit that subscribe button, like button, and bell icon. See you guys next time. You have a great day.